things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set up 4 different views really quickly, and then we're going to set up a more analytical view, sort of a floor plan view looking down, and we're going to render all of those in the cloud. Okay, so if I go to my level 1, I'm just going to go to this view right here, 3D view, camera view. I'm going to place it in the corner and come across. And then, as you guys have all known to do, we're just going to sort of stretch this out so we've got a little bit more on the view. I am not terribly worried about coming in and increasing the resolution by increasing the size, right? We're not putting these on presentation boards or anything like that. I'm not exactly sure what Bruce is going to have you turn in, but it's pretty simple stuff. The default resolution in terms of size is going to work fine. Okay, the next thing that I want to do with this is I want to turn on my shadows. I just have to remember where shadows are. Sun path on, shadows on. Okay, I want to turn on my shadows because I want to set these up with some light coming in. I want to know the time of day. I want to be very scientific about that. And I'm going to use my shadow system as a first pass. Do I have light coming in on the windows, right? And you could certainly do these tests at 8 a.m., 10 p.m., 10 a.m., noon, 2, et cetera, et cetera. You could do as many as you wanted. But for this first pass, I want to see light coming in. I want to see that we're getting results, okay? So right now, I know I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. No light coming in by turning the shadows on. So that's sort of my first check. So I'm going to, for this view, remember graphic display options, you're setting the sun not globally. You set your sun in Revit per view. So you have to do this every single view, okay? So I'm going to go to graphic display options. And we are essentially going to be looking at a couple of things. So shadows, I've already got that turned on. The next thing I need to do is the sun. And what we're going to be doing is going sun in session. And we want to do a still. And this allows me to set a date and time. Okay, so let's just go ahead and keep today as today, because that seems like fun. This is a west elevation. So I'm thinking like 3:30. Seems like a good time. Cool. And so when we hit apply, I should immediately see those shadows reform, right? I now have sunlight coming in to that space, and I'm hoping that that's not a terrible modeling error where I actually don't have the wall and the roof coming together. We'll see later, okay? So it's pretty simple, okay, and okay. Cool, so that's my first test. Do that every single time, every single view. We want to make sure that we have something set up correctly. I want to make sure that I can see my shadows, because this becomes my really quick check, so that I know, okay, are my simulations running well, okay? So I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to do something which all of you hate to do. And don't lie to me, I know none of you do it. It makes me crazy. Name your views. Name your freaking views, y'all. So this is going to be, so let's select, right click, rename. Option 1. And this was, you can do it like however you want to with this. 123. I don't really care about, it's 20, I don't know. The year, well, let's just do it. 123.25, and this was 3:30. Probably shouldn't put a dot there. That'll throw something off. 3:30p. Cool. Name your views. Please name your views. Your renderings are going to be named after your views, so also very helpful. Okay, so let's repeat those steps. And you guys don't want to watch me do this 4 times. You guys get the idea, right? I've got 4 different options here to see different things. So let's skip to the end. And I'm going to repeat that process one more time, but faster. Camera, corner, edge, make it bigger. Cool. Lights, not that one. You can tell I don't do this very often actually, so I don't even remember exactly which buttons are which. Lighting, sun, still, Springfield, 3, 30, apply, okie dokie, okay. You thought I wasn't going to do it, didn't you? Option 4, 1-23-25, space 3-30p. Cool. That was timed perfectly. Thank you so much. Whatever made that sound. Cool? You guys with me? Easy peasy. So, to build these things, what we're going to do next, cloud rendering, right up here. Okay, cloud rendering. We're going to click this drop down, and it is under view. So my view tab, and which makes sense. We're creating views, we're creating renderings, should be under view tab. So view, cloud rendering. Note, I am also already logged in. If you have any issues with your Revit license, now is the time that you're going to find out. Okay, because it is going to track Dave is sending a rendering. It's going Autodesk. They know things. They know all the things. Okay, so it is going to track that. It is going to tag your subscription. All of those things. So know that that's happening. Okay, so cloud rendering, rendering cloud. Essentially, on the next screen, 3D views will start rendering. Service will notify you when the images are ready. Select render gallery to see them. Okay, pretty simple stuff there. I always leave that on simply so that when you guys do this for the first time, you see what's going to happen. I would strongly suggest don't show this message again. Okay, so this is going to allow me to select the views that I want to render. If I've named my views, it's very easy to do. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, demand, demand. Okay, so I'm going to render option 1 and option 2 with their appropriate date and time labeled. My output type, I am not wanting a still image. Frankly, y'all, Revit's render engine is no longer something that's going to create great images for you. You actually, I tell you that you can build some really great images in it, but again, it's a process that's going to take days rather than minutes. And you guys know that like you don't get days anymore to do renderings on the back end of your design work. You just don't. So yeah, it's. I don't think you're going to be doing still images very often out of Revit anymore. Okay, but illuminance, super nice. So we're going to go to illuminance, image size. Again, we're not asking you guys to print billboards off of this, so accepting the defaults is totally fine. Next, and this one's weird to me. Okay, you have another option of setting date and time. Remember to check this box. Use date from view. Okay, we spent time in Revit setting up the shadows, making sure that it's correct. We set our sun in that location at that time. That's what we want to use. Okay, you might be studying winter solstice, summer solstice, whatever that you need to do. Set that up in Revit, and then make sure you're clicking use date from view. Okay, this is your cloud credits. If you are in an office, understand that this creates some kind of fee wherever you're working, right? For students, unlimited. Yay. Send all that you want, okay? But if you're in an office, understand that you could cost your employer, I don't know, $2, $80, etc. Right? So before you hit send, make sure you have the authority to do so. Right? Sky model. This essentially, I use the default, but I do want to take a second to explain it. Essentially, this is looking at weather data and how much cloud coverage there is. It's selecting a nice average for you. If you get super far into this in terms of the science, you can select different values and different methods of applying a sky. Okay, so if, like, let's say that you're really fine tuning your daylighting solution, you could do passes with clear or overcast skies and understand the difference, right? There are certain situations that might come in and play a very important role. For what we are doing, we are most interested in just keeping it average. Okay, so we're going to do the all-weather sky. This last tab, most important. Okay, we are going to render by default foot candles, and then by default is 0 to 200. Okay, that sounds nice, but you are going to get values. If you have direct sunlight coming in, you are going to get values much higher than 200 foot candles, and you are going to have values definitely all the way down to 0. So what happens if you do that is essentially your entire image is going to look like, well, if you've, oh gosh, this is old school. Phones are so much better than this. Old school, if you took a camera into a super, super bright room and then also used the flash, you would wash everything out dramatically. If I leave this 0 to 200 for this kind of image, you're going to get that kind of result. Everything's going to get washed out. You're going to get a little bit of a gradient, like in this back corner here, where we have almost no foot candles, and then everything's going to ramp up to a bright yellow, and you're not going to actually be able to see any results. So what we want to do is set automatic, and so that is going to build a gradient between maximum foot candles in the scene and minimum foot candles in the scene. Okay? The next thing that we are going to check typically is going to be logarithmic. Essentially what that says is rather than it being an even gradient, 0 to let's say 1200 or something like that, it's actually going to step it. So if I have a lot of values close to the high end, it's going to spread that gradient out and give me a better looking image for the graph. Okay, so I typically like checking both of those. So we are going to click Start Rendering, and it's going to dump both of those into the cloud. And as those are going, I can click View Rendering Process. This typically, first time you do this, you're going to have to log in again. But for me, I've already logged in once. I'm going to go View Project, and I should see there are my two renderings starting. So less than 10 minutes for both of them. Okay, so while that's going, let's build one more view into one of these scenes so that we can get kind of a floor plan type of view. A little bit trickier to do with the camera, but very, very doable. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my level 1 and sure, let's save the project. Always say, when it asks, always say the project, y'all. Crashes happen. They're a thing. Okay, so if you know, this is, and there are a couple of ways to do this with, like, I could use a 3D, I could use an axonometric camera, I could do a couple of different things. Building renders from views, the easiest way that I'm going to show you, and I kind of like the quality of it because we're going to see some walls and some things. I'm going to actually set up a perspective camera looking down into a space to kind of create a perspective floor plan view. Okay, so to do that, again, under view, let's go up here. That camera, and I'm just going to start by placing something roughly center. Okay. If you guys remember, if I go to, like, let's say my west elevation, let's deselect it. So we have to show you how to select it. Again, that is my camera. Okay. First thing I should be doing, everybody say it at the same time. Name your views. So this is option 3. Plan view. I don't know the date and time yet. So if I remember, if I'm doing my job well, I'll remember and rename it just before. So I'm going to right click and say show camera. Right click, show camera. Okay, so I can take the camera, pull it up. I can take the vantage point of the camera and pull that down. And I'm going to go to one of my side views. Let's go to north. Same thing. I can pull that so it is straight down. Is that my target? Yeah, it's my target. that. And let's kind of center the whole thing up a little bit like this. And if you're thinking, gosh, Dave, this seems a little bit slop artist, you're right, it is. Okay? This is not the most elegant way to build this kind of view. And I got a little twisty. So we'll correct that here by looking at it from an overhead view, I hope. Let's just do a little rotate. Let's rotate it the correct way. Oh, wow. That's terrifying. There we go. So not super gracefully done. Ugh. Really not gracefully done. Let's check that from one other angle. West. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Something like that. I did not do a very graceful of a job getting there, but you guys can kind of see what I'm doing, okay? For me, it's kind of nice. I like getting some values on the walls. Again, I could create this with an axonometric view looking down and in. I cannot build this rendering from a plan view, right? Those are not available. It has to either be an axonometric, where I can like hide something, like I could hide the roof, something like that, and kind of look down in, or it needs to be from a perspective. Okay, so let's again turn on shadows, and let's go to graphic display options, and let's look at lighting, still, and let's set this to, I've been using 330 on the day of today. Okie dokie and okie dokie. So last piece with this view, almost forgot, rename 1, 2, 3, 25, 330p. Okay, so file, save, cloud rendering, rendering cloud, continue. My view is not 3D, option 3 plan view, rendered with illuminance. My legend is automatic and logarithmic. My location is from the view. That's stepping through everything one more time. Start the rendering, and off it goes. So let's go back into my web browser, and yeah, I believe that's the one that I just did. Yeah. Right, so we're seeing the values come in through there. So that was option 1. Option 1, 123, 3:30 p.m., 7 minutes ago. And so it is, if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you're seeing 180 on the low side of foot candles, 4,000 on the high side. Pretty intense. Next view, same thing. And so what you're starting to see is, yeah, at 3:30 in the afternoon, and all of you should know this from our own studios here, back when you were in first year, second level, west side, not so great sitting by the windows. A lot of glare. So the things that I could do to resolve that, obviously some type of system over the windows, more architectural elements, or I can start fine-tuning the glass. A glass that's a bit darker, that has some shading on it, which does change color often a little bit. You know, it's like looking through sunglasses. but reduces and distributes that a little bit. And those are all things you can do in Revit with your materials. If you get into your glass and what kind of glass you've applied, you can start making those modifications and you will see the results. For what Bruce is looking for on these first passes are much more about getting the values and seeing what happens. Cool? Yeah, questions? Let's do one because Revit will let us do as many as we want. So if I go back in here and let's start from this view right here, and I will go cloud rendering, render in cloud, continue. So we're going to do option 1, illuminance, use date and time, legend. Let's do 0. What did you want to do? Just 0 to 200? Yeah, let's do 0 to 200 and start rendering. And so we'll take a look at those values. So I should see 3 that are now cooking. Yep. Not sure why I did 2. That's plan view 1. That's option 1, 330. Oh, I accidentally had 3D selected here as well. I don't know what it's going to render here. That'll be fun to see. It's not an illuminance rendering though. At least I don't think. So we'll see what those are, how those come up in just a few minutes. Other questions? And I'll probably turn off the screen recording unless there's a question that needs to be recorded. Cool. Let me turn this dude off.